In the previous class, we have discussed about the file system task and then the sequence container. And now the leftover one is execute SQL task, right? So let's discuss about execute SQL task. See, basically executes by using execute SQL task. So whatever the tasks which, whatever the commands which we can run in SQL or in Management Studio, all those commands we can execute in SSIS using execute SQL task, right? And yeah, so let me truncate this. Let me delete this existing task. So let me disable it. Guys, please go on mute. Yeah. So execute SQL task, I'm just dragging it. And here you can write your own SQL statements like insert into select star form also you can write, or you can call a stored procedure within it. All right. And but if you do select star from table name, you cannot view the table data here, right? So why? Because SSIS is just to load the data and we cannot view it, and we can view the data only in data flow task using a data viewers, right? So in execute SQL task, we can just execute a SQL statement here. And for that, there are few properties here. You can see this is a general tab and where you can see the task name. So if you wanted, you can change it. And then timeout. So by default, the timeout is 0. Guys, in real time, what happens, most of the times we'll face issues like timeout issues. When you use either execute SQL task or data flow task for data loading, right? So if you click on the data flow task, and if you go to properties, you can see a property called timeout. I don't know whether it is in control flow level. Okay, let me check the destination level or source level. I think it is for OLEDB source. Yeah, so I'll just click on OLEDB source. Yeah, and if you go to here, see when you're querying a database, and you can see if you go to data flow and if you click on the source, and if you go to properties, you can see a command timeout property here. By default, it is 0, which means, see, sometimes it will be 30 seconds, which if it is 30, then it is 30 seconds. So the query will try to wait for 30 seconds. And if it doesn't respond within 30 seconds, the package will get failed. I mean, this source will get failed, saying that command timeout, right? And if you set it to 0, it will wait until the command responds, right? So always make sure the command timeout should be 0. Otherwise, if when you are querying a source database, which is any Teradata or any other source, and if it says the timeout issue, try to check by clicking on the OLEDB source and check the command timeout is 0 or not. If it is other than 0, try to make it 0. Okay. So here, when it comes to execute SQL task, you can see the same here. Command timeout by default it is 0, and code page SSIS default code page is 1252, which means what SSIS will support, right? And data conversions allowed and result set. Yeah, this is the main important property here. There is an option called result set. So result set by default it is none, and you can see 3 more options. See here mainly useful is single row, but you have to remember at least 2. One is single row, another one is full result set. Okay. So when it is none, the result set option is none. It means it doesn't store any value in it. Okay. And if it is single row, it will store a value in it, which is single value. See, if you want to store any maximum value or maximum ID within execute SQL task, you can use this property single row. If you want to save a value in it, let's say if you want to pass any variable to the parameter or any value to the parameter, how can you pass it? So that I'll tell you. And using single row, we can just save value in a variable, and using full result set means it will save the full table data. Okay. So when you want to save the full table data, And variables also you have to use as the variable type as an object. So if you go to variables and if you look at the data types here, you need to use object here and you want to use the full result set. Object in the sense it will store the table data itself, right? So mostly we'll not use a full result set. In real time, most of the times single row will be useful. Why? Because it will store only one value in a variable. I'll tell you the scenarios where we can use that. And here connection type is there, right? So if you expand it, you can see Excel, we can connect here OLEDB, ODBC, ADO.NET. ODBC is nothing but it is for Oracle, okay? And OLEDB is for Microsoft SQL Server. So let it be OLEDB. And then here connection manager, it will ask for it, right? So the connection manager, I'll choose October 2021 here. And if you want to execute any stored procedure here, we can. So let me go to October 2021 database and let's check any of the stored procedures here. We'll try to execute that. Here there is a stored procedure called insert. Okay, this is the stored procedure. I'm gonna call over there. The stored procedure is trying to insert data into an employee from another table, right? I think it is the same table, is it? Okay, this is a different table from employee to employee, right? So here I'll try to execute this stored proc in execute SQL task. So if you want to write the command, you can just click on these three dots. Okay, and write execute stored procedure. Either execute or exe also fine to execute a stored procedure, right? So click on OK. And then there is an option here SQL source type. By default, it is direct input, right? And if you drop down it, you can see file connection variable as well, which means direct input in the sense I can directly give a query here in the query editor, right? And let's say sometimes if you try to paste a lengthy code here in the SQL command, so it will not try to take the full, I don't know the maximum how much it will accept, how many number of lines of code. But if the data, if the number of lines is more, it won't able to adjust all those heavy lines of code here, right? So during that time, what we'll do, instead of giving direct input, we'll just use as a file connection and we'll save our query in a file, text file, and then we'll call that connection manager here. Clear? If SQL query number of lines is more, and if it is not able to adjust it here in the SQL statement window, and we'll try to use the file. Okay. Text file will store our query. Okay, that is what these other options, SQL source types, which is file connection and then variable. So by default, it will be direct input, which means we can write our select statements directly here. I mean SQL statements. Okay, click on OK. So now before executing, so let me check the destination table data. Okay. Select star from table name. And here already existing 30 rows are there. And let's check how many records are there in the source. 20 rows are there. And then let's check the source table. It has 3 rows. So now if I execute stored procedure, 3 rows should go into the destination, right? So let me execute. As of now, my destination has 20 rows. And I'm calling this stored procedure through SSIS. Execute task. Successfully executed. And can you see 3 rows added here? Now count is 23, right? So we can execute a stored procedures here using this method. Any questions, guys? Okay, so this is fine. And let's say when we are trying to execute a stored procedure which is having input parameters. Okay. So this is one input parameter. And then this is another, right? So I just want to I'm just trying to use input parameter for a stored procedure. See here, I have an input parameter, parameterized stored procedure, and which is here it is passing a parameter called age, right? But I think here we am just selecting it, right? Instead of that, let me do some updates maybe. Okay, so I'll try to create one more stored procedure here, guys, and we'll try to do max of greater than that ID. We'll try to do. Let me explain you that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one stored procedure which will loads data. I think maybe the same stored procedure I'll modify it. Employee insert. Okay. See here, what I'm trying to do here, I'm just inserting a plain data here, right? So whatever the employee is having, that data I'm trying to insert into the destination, right? But what I'll do is, so see every time if I execute this again, the same number of records will go into the destination. Let's say here next time if my source is appended with 4444, then I want to get only the 4444 record should get inserted into the destination, right? And if next time 5555 inserts and I want the greater than the previous maximum ID should get selected, which means let's say now it is 3333, right? If 4444 and 5555 is there, next time only those two records should get selected. So for that, what we need to do here? So we need to add one where class filter, right? So where EID is greater than @EID. So I'm just providing a variable here, which is employee ID. And for this, the max of employee ID will fetch it from here, right? So I'll tell you, you'll get to know. So here I'm adding one more parameter, which is @EID int. Okay, I'm just altering the stored procedure. Now it is accepting one input parameter, right? So what I'm trying to do here is, so whatever the employee ID I'm providing and I'm passing it to here, and those employee ID should be greater than this input provided value. And what I'll pass here is I'll select max of employee ID from this one. Okay, what I'm gonna pass for that ID is I'll select max of employee ID. Why I'm selecting max is to select the value which is not being inserted already, all right, as max ID. So if we use this one, so now the maximum ID on the source table, it is having 3333, and this ID I'm going to pass it to this parameter, this stored procedure where class filter. And if the data is greater than this 3333, then only I should insert it into this table. That is what my requirement, right? So now if I directly execute this stored procedure, will it get execute, guys? Say I'll go to execute SQL task. And then I think this is what the command is already exist, right? So exec space stored procedure. If I execute, will it execute or not? Successfully completed, or will it fail, guys? Any guesses? Are you following with me, or will it execute or not? That means it will fail, right? Why? Because it will check for input parameter. It failed. If you go to progress tab, you can see here the input parameter which is not supplied, right? So the stored procedure which you are calling now is having an input parameter, right? So we have to pass value for that. Now what we need to is, as per my explanation, so we should pass input parameter to the stored procedure, the max of employee ID. That is what I told, right? So this maximum employee ID, we have to pass input parameter value for that stored procedure. So how to store this maximum ID in a variable? Guys, I explained you, right? So using single result set. So now I'll just give a connector between these two, why there is a dependency between this one and this one, and I'm gonna use that maximum ID here. Okay, and I'm gonna use this select statement. Select max of employee ID as max ID. Click on OK. See, I did not give a result set as of now, it is none. So first let me create one variable to store that value. I'm creating a variable which is max ID, integer only. Why? Because that value is integer. And let me use single row now, result set. So what I told for single row, it will store a value. So once you give it here, since you use the result set option to single row, and you have to use here result set, right? So you need to add a variable here which will holds that value, which is max ID. Clear? And let's use the name as max ID. Whatever the variable name you have used, use the same. Click on OK. Right? And now let's execute whether it will execute fine or not. Let's check it. It executed successfully, which means now the variable will holds the value of maximum value, which is 3333. Clear? So how to pass whatever the value which you are storing in a variable here to input parameter of this stored procedure? Next question, right? So to pass any input parameter value for the stored procedure, in here in the command you have to give question mark. Okay, in the execute SQL task, if it is one input parameter, you have to give one question mark. If it is two, give comma and then give one more question mark, right? So you have to give question mark here, and then in the parameter mapping, you have to use that variable. Add variable here, and you'll add it and select the variable which you have stored the maximum value, which is max ID. Clear? Give the parameter name at the rate max ID. Okay, click on OK, save it. So now I'm going to execute the package. Now how many records should get insert, guys, into this table, destination table? As of now, how many records are there? 23 are there. So using this maximum ID greater than that, how many records will get execute with load? Execute package. So it ran fine, right? So how many records do you think it got loaded? Zero records. Why zero records? Why? Because the stored procedure here we have written is select star from source table where EID is greater than the EID, which means what is that parameter value here? Maximum ID from the source table. So what is the maximum ID here? 3333. So do we have the maximum ID greater than this value? Guys, from which table we should select max of ID? From the destination, right, or source? Guys, from which table we have to choose the max? We should choose it from the destination, right?
Destination.
Why? Because whatever the value which is already existing, that we should not use it. The next value we have to fetch, right? So we have to use the maximum ID from the destination. This is the maximum ID. And if any value comes greater than this one, we have to insert it, right? So let's change the first statement. Why I am changing to destination table? Why? Because the maximum ID we should get it from the destination table, not from the source. If we insert data again source, if we get it max, it will not insert anytime. It will not insert. Why? Because once after you insert a maximum value, again it will pick it here, right? So we have to use max of ID from destination. And now also if I execute, will it load any records? No, right? Why? Because the maximum ID in the destination we have 8888. So we don't have any records in source which is greater than 8888. All right. So still in my destination has 23 rows, and let's insert one record now on the source. So before that, let me check my source table data. We have 3 records. Let me insert into source table, insert into employee values. Now I'll just give 9999, which is greater than the maximum value, and then name I'll just give Ram, and age is 50, and location let me give Pune. Okay, I'm just trying to insert one record in the source. And now what happens, this one record should get inserted into the destination here, right? So as of now, my destination is having 23 rows, and the condition which I gave in the stored procedure is greater than this value, the maximum value, right? So now let me execute it. See here, main thing you have to observe is how are we storing a variable value, a value in a variable using full result set option here. I mean single row and using a variable in the result set. So that is one thing. And another thing is how are we passing a input parameters to the stored procedure, right? So command executed successfully, SSIS package. So now let's check the destination table data. So it was 23 records earlier, and now you can see 24. That one record which we inserted in the source greater than that, which is 9999, it is inserted here. Clear? So how it is inserted based on our stored procedure code. Guys, anyone have any concerns on this? If you want, I'll explain you again. If it is clear, I'll move forward. Okay, so this is the explanation and the purpose of execute SQL task in SSIS. So we can store a value using single row here into a variable, and whatever the value we have stored in a variable, we can use it in the next task as an input parameter by giving a question mark. And for that question mark, we have to map a parameter here, which is the maximum ID, right? So these are the two things which can be done using execute SQL task. Okay. Okay. Now See, I think with this, the development of SSIS is completed. Now what I'm gonna do is, see, once our development is done, right, either in SQL or SSIS, how do we deploy your SQL scripts? How many environments will have in real time, right? So most of you are not aware of it. Okay. See, as of now, we are working in a single server here, Lenovo-PC, right? So in real time, you will be having at least 3 environments. One is development. We'll call it as a dev server. Okay. And then UAT, which is test server or testing server. And then production finally. Production, which is prod server. Production is not, prod is nothing but production, right? So 3 environments will maintain in real time, right? So 3 environments is nothing but 3 instances of SQL Server will be installed. Software will be 1, but server names will be 3. See, let's say here, the naming conventions will be, see here, in my case, Lenovo-PC, right? So let's assume Lenovo-PC is the dev server. Okay. And for here, UAT, they'll give naming convention as Lenovo UAT-PC, something like this. And then for production, it will be Lenovo prod-PC, something like this, right? The server names will be different. See, when you want to connect to UAT, you just need to change your server name here to UAT. As of now, we don't have configured this server name, but in real time, they'll give you what is the development server and what is the UAT server and what is the production server, right? And in real time, the server names will be looks like, right? So LPDV 344, right? So something like this /12 20, something like this it will be, right? So here based on these numbers, it will be dev or production, they'll tell you. Okay. Once you are used to the project, easily you can remember those server names. And let's say for UAT it will be 345, and for production it will be 346 or 4, and whatever it is. Right? Or maybe after this number, they'll give P for production and U for UAT and D for development, something like this. We can also. So the naming conventions is up to the organization. Okay. So 3 different servers will be maintained in real time. And we have a fully access to the development server. Either we can drop, we can create, we can alter the tables. So we can play around in the development server, right? So being a developer, you will be having full access to the dev server. And when there is a requirement comes for you, you have to create objects first in dev server. Okay, either it may be creating a table, creating a view, or creating a stored procedure, or altering a stored procedure. Right, altering is nothing but modifying the existing stored procedure. Okay, so first you will do it in the dev server, and then we have to move the code to the UAT server. So once UAT is done, you need to do it in the production. See, for doing changes in the UAT or production, we won't be having access being a developer. So we have to ask the DBA guys to take care of it. Any questions, guys, on the 3 servers? And I'll tell you how to move the scripts to UAT or production. See, okay, if there are no doubts, I'll just tell you how to script out the scripts. See, basically, once you have created all the development work, so you just need to, while creating, let's say you have created a table here in October 2021. Let's take an example of this one employee, right? So if you want to create this table in UAT, you just need to script it out. Right? So you have to use this You can keep it or you can remove it, whatever, that's up to you. And then you have to save it in a folder wherever you want it to. You can keep it in a single file. Let's say I'll maintain UAT1 folder here, right? So under that, I'll just use create employee. So this is table script. I am saving it in my folder. And then once table script is done, so I need to create stored procedure also, right? Which is loading to that table. So this is the stored procedure I want to create in the. See, do I need to use create or alter, guys? Which command I should use? Alter. Alter I should use or create?
Alter.
If I use alter, if for the first time, see, if you have created a
First time we are
procedure,
using.
no, if you
We,
are,
we should create.
yeah, that's what. See, if you have created a stored procedure in development server, when you are moving it to UAT, if it is for the first time, you cannot use alter, right? When you do alter, if there is a stored procedure already existing, then you have to use alter. If there is for the first time you are creating, you have to use the create to new query window. Create statement you should provide, right? And also save this stored procedure in your local desktop. Save. And then here we'll just give create, then procedure name. So these are the two scripts you have saved in your folder. And then what you have to do is, see, there will be ticketing tools in real time. So maybe according to your project, they'll explain you either what tools they are using, or sometimes we'll just send out an email to the DBA guys. So there will be a DBA team in real time. So we have to send out an email to them and they will create on behalf of us. What we need to do is, so we just need to select these files and we have to send out an email. That's it. So you'll just create a email and then you'll attach those scripts and you'll just, hi team, please find attached scripts and deploy to UAT server, you will mention, right? If it is an email, you will do email, or if it is a ticket, you will mention the same thing and you will mention the server name and LPDV 344U, something like this will mention. And then database name also you have to mention. Database name, whatever the database name in your real-time project it is there, you have to mention that. Okay. So that the deployment team will take care of creating a table or stored procedure in the UAT server, right? So this is how you need to script out. If it is alter a script, you while you are doing coding in development only, try to save all those queries in local folder so that when you are sending to deployment team, directly you can send out that file. Okay. So that is how you'll manage with the SQL scripts when we are deploying to multiple environments, right? So now what happens? See, SQL scripts are done, but we have created SSIS package to load that, right? Here, how to deploy SSIS package to multiple environments. So let's discuss that. So I'll send you link again. Join back fast, guys. Okay. As of now, we discussed about deploying a SQL scripts. So let's discuss about SSIS. Join fast. Okay.